Hello, and welcome to the Perfect Franchise Podcast.
I'm Kris, and joining me is my wonderful co-host, Andrea.
In this podcast, we're on a mission to help you discover all that franchising has to offer.
We'll explore expert strategies, interview successful franchise owners, and give you the tools to make informed decisions.
So whether you're considering your options or you're ready to take that plunge, we're here to support you every step of the way.
So let's jump into today's episode. Welcome to another TPF podcast. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We are going to dive into a little bit of the financial and accounting aspects of business ownership and franchising. And to do that, we've got two special guests. We have David Floyd, who is our partner here at TPF and a serial franchise owner. And we also have Mark Glassman, who is owner of Lugo Point Financial Services, and also, I believe, Mark, you're a self-appointed accounting geek. Is that right?
I'm a bit of a geek, for sure. So hopefully I won't ramble like an accountant. Thanks for having me.
This is great. And I think, kind of having both of you on, we can look at both aspects. Mark, you for more the accounting, the more professional side, and then Dave pulling in a lot of what does it look like as a business owner? And I think it'll be really helpful to our clients. So Mark, start us out and give us sort of maybe a little bit of your background, but I think it's important for people to understand there's people that work on taxes for, your personal taxes, and then that's sort of the business aspect. So help us understand the business aspect. That's really what we're looking at today.
Absolutely, Andrea. So I would describe myself as a more well-rounded accountant. Like I've touched various areas of accounting. So there's accounting, there's financial reporting, treasury management, setting up billing and receivables and payables. Anything that touches accounting would go through an accounting and finance department. As opposed to a tax professional, that's someone who's going to do your tax returns, someone who is going to be very knowledgeable of, every aspect of, what's deductible, what's not deductible, how do you structure things to save taxes. A good business accountant knows when to hire a good tax accountant, for sure.
That's helpful. So, Mark, kind of digging into that a little bit. So, you're saying a financial, what did you say that last line? So it was a business kind of accountant hires a tax accountant. So they're different, right? You're saying, and so is there a business tax accountant? Can you dive?
No.
Like, is that different? No. Okay.
Yeah. No, a tax accountant is somebody that does tax planning strategies and compliance, filling out your tax returns, any types of tax returns. But accounting, like a business accountant or someone like myself, we keep the books. We keep the books and records. So, all the money that comes in and out of the company, we make sure that it's classified properly and put in a manner that a business owner could understand. These are my books and records. This is where I'm making money. This is how I could do better. Just trying to provide a little bit more organization around things.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
So if it's okay with you guys, and we were talking offline before this podcast. So I've been a business owner for 20 years and I still don't understand accounting or numbers. I was an English major in college, so I'm the exact opposite of you, Mark, and of you, David, who have, embraced the accounting side of things. So I need all your answers to talk to me and our listeners like it's our first time, like we're all English majors, right? And so let's start out at the beginning. If you're considering buying a franchise and if you're thinking about being a business owner, you have to set up an entity. It can't just be you most of the time, right? Even that, there's different entities, S Corps, LLCs, C Corps. Some people are already starting to break out into a sweat. So David, why don't you take this? What do they need to know? How do they start to decide what they need? And then Mark, you can chime in.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do so. So, you want to set up an entity usually to provide legal protection, right? To separate your personal assets from your business assets. And so, I think in most cases, you're probably going to be an LLC. There are certain cases, depending on the type of funding that you do, that you might want to be a C Corp. And so Mark can probably explain what the differences are between the two and why you would do one versus the other. But I think the best advice is talk to your consultant, myself, Kris, Andrea. We can help guide you on what type of entity might be the best fit. I always recommend that people speak with the CPA, speak with an attorney. If you're utilizing one of our funding providers that we talk to, they can tell you if there's a specific entity that you need to have. So just trust your resources. Make sure you speak with the right people, and they will help you to understand which entity is going to be the best for you, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, an LLC, just to add on to what you're saying, an LLC is definitely the easiest thing to set up. You set up an LLC. If you're one person, you check the box and all of your income just flows to your personal return. I say don't be afraid of looking into an S corp. Different facts, different circumstances. Every company is going to be different. It's not one size fits all. The best person you could speak to with regard to this will be a tax accountant, in my mind, no doubt. But don't be afraid to do an S corp. I'm an S corp. When you're an LLC and you're an owner in that company, you do pay employer taxes, as opposed to when you're an S corp, you pay employer taxes, but you pay employer taxes on the compensation paid to you as an employee. So definitely speak to the tax accountant.
Yeah, and one of the questions too that people have is how hard is it to set up one of these entities? It's super easy. Your accountant can usually do it, or you can have an attorney do it. So it takes a day oftentimes. So very easy to do. Once you get the advice on what type of entity is best, they can usually help you get that set up very easily.
And I would say David made it sound a lot more complicated. A day it takes a lot less.
That's right. And onto that, there's another thing that people need to consider, and they'll hear it, is that you can get your entity set up, but you need to get an EIN number, a tax number, which is basically the Social Security number, but for your new business. Is that hard? And how much does that cost?
It's really easy, and it's. I don't think it costs anything. You can go online and you apply for your EIN, and as long as you do it online and you do it from start to finish, and I think start to finish is like 15 minutes, you get your EIN right then and there. If you do it via paper, it takes a little bit longer. You could always hire someone to do it, but it's really easy. But I would advise you to speak to an accountant, let them guide you through the process, and do it yourself, or have them do it for you. But definitely do it online.
And that's the number you end up using to set up your business bank accounts and some of that information as well. Is there other areas where you're going to use that EIN number? Dave, you probably know a lot of that, your background.
Yeah, like Kris said, it's kind of like your Social Security number except for your business. So anytime you're filling out any forms as an entity, that's the number that they're going to ask for, whether it's opening up a business bank account or setting up an account with a payroll company. Anything that is your any kind of vendor that you're going to be utilizing is typically going to be using that EIN number.
All right, well, you guys are already making me feel better. It's easy. It's not so scary. The next step is there is a difference, and maybe Mark, you could talk. There's a difference between an accountant that maybe helps me do my personal taxes every year, right? If I've been a W-2 employee my whole career, that accountant will help me do my taxes. Who am I looking for to help me with business stuff, like setting up an entity, getting an EIN number, figuring out how I need to track my revenue and expenses? Can that be the same person that has helped me with my personal tax, or is that going to be somebody different? Are there 3 letters that come after the name? How does it work? Like, who am I looking for?
Yeah, I am biased towards those 3 letters, the CPA, because not all accountants are certified public accountants, but doesn't mean for certain functions whether you need it or not. But who do you go to? Like, the first person I think you're going to start with is your tax advisor. The tax advisor will help you choose the structure that we talked about before. They will help you apply for an EIN if you can't do it yourself. I do think you're looking for a completely different accountant when you want to talk about your setting up your accounting system or your books and records. I think it's worth paying the money to go out and hire a part-time bookkeeper that could do some day-to-day accounting for you. But you might want somebody that's a little bit higher level than that, to set up an accounting system, something that's really easy. Like I've got clients that use QuickBooks. I've got clients that use NetSuite. QuickBooks is very intuitive. It's for like a small business. I think QuickBooks is great, and it's very easy to have someone set it up. I'm going to pause right there and see if you have any other questions before I ramble on.
No, I think that's a good point for Dave. Dave, I know you're a big proponent of QuickBooks. So what does it look like from a small business owner standpoint?
Yeah, it's so easy to do. And so just so people know too, I don't have any real formal tax training. I had a couple accounting classes in college that I made decent grades on. So, I am not a tax expert, but for both of our businesses, I always did our bookkeeping. And I always recommend to clients, if you can do it, absolutely do it. As Mark said, using a program like QuickBooks, it's so easy to do. And there's so much value in being able to understand your P&L. What are your expenses? What does your revenue look like? What's your profit at the end of the day? I think most people can do their own books. If you can't, I would say absolutely hire a bookkeeper, hire a CPA to do it, or help them get you set up. There's videos you can watch online that show you how to use QuickBooks. You can take little classes that will show you how to do it. It really is very simple. You can download expenses right from your bank statement into QuickBooks, and you say, okay, what was this expense? Oh, that was rent. Okay, I'm going to assign that to rent. Okay, what was this? Well, that was my electric bill. Okay, that's a utility. I mean, it really is as easy as just assigning expenses into a category, and then QuickBooks does all the work for you and gives you your entire P&L. So it's really a very, very simple tool, even if you don't have a strong background in accounting.
It's intuitive, and like the one thing that I would say that might differ than David is, like, you're focused in on your business. You want to grow your business, so sometimes spending a little bit money hiring somebody that could help deal with some of the minutia, some of the items in the background, set up like proper controls, make sure you're reconciling cash on a daily basis, make sure you're going out there billing your customers, collecting your receivables quickly. It's all important, and by having somebody, even if it's a bookkeeper, that comes in part-time or a full-time accountant, it helps you focus in on your business so you can make more money. And I think that's what you're in business for.
So for those clients that say, I'm so scared of the P&L, like I can do everything else. I had a gentleman today, and he's like, I look at P&Ls all day from a sales perspective for a big sales team, but I don't know how I would do it for a small business. I feel like I'd struggle there. So Dave, you walk through a little bit about putting the expenses in, the ease of it, but walk somebody through, what does that look like in general if you're managing it, doing it yourself versus hiring someone like Mark said?
Yeah, so I always link my bank account and my credit card account to my QuickBooks. And as a business owner, any expense that I have, either it's coming out of my bank account, or revenue is coming into it, my business bank account, or an expense is going on my business credit card. So it's going to show up in one of those two places. And then literally there's a system in QuickBooks where it imports all of your transactions that you've done in the business on a weekly basis or since the last time you logged in. And then you're literally just assigning those expenses to a category. Okay, this was payroll. That's payroll expense. This is rent. This is utilities. This is my cell phone. And then QuickBooks does all of the work for you. There's a button that says reports. You hit P&L. It's going to take all those things that you've now assigned to a category, and it creates the P&L for you, where you can see, this is my revenue, these are all my expenses, this is my net at the end of the day. I can see it for a week, I can see it for a month, I can see it year to date. And so it really is very simple. And I think as a business owner, you should be able to understand that. I think it's important to understand your business. How is it doing? I can look at month to month and say, are there any big changes from month to month that I wasn't expecting that I need to look into? So I think as a business owner, in my opinion, it's important to have that insight into your business. How am I doing? What are areas for improvement? What are some of the metrics that I'm looking at? We always have used an accountant as well, and I use them to double check what I'm doing, make sure I didn't mess anything up. They will handle some of the more complicated things that I'm not comfortable doing, things like accruals, things like depreciation. I know what it is. I don't want to do it. That's over my head. I want my accountant to manage those things. I want them to produce the year-end tax reports for me. So I'm kind of doing some of the blocking and tackling on a day-to-day basis, but I always have had that advisor to, at the end of the day, make sure I'm doing it right, I'm not missing anything, and then prepare the final tax returns for me at the end of the year. And that's worked well for us.
That's impressive. Definitely not an English major there. He's into the numbers, which is great.
He was a financial advisor. He's making you. He left that piece out that he used to do that back in the day.
So, well, if you guys are okay with this, Mark, I'm going to ask you this, and we're going to wade into a little bit deeper waters here.
Yeah.
We got to keep it simple. This idea that, it's been popularized by books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where let's just say, for instance, if I'm a W-2 employee, it made $200,000 this year, or I'm in business for myself and generated $200,000 this year. Net, the business owner will usually end up having less tax liability. Is there a way for you to explain that to folks where this is just kind of a mysterious idea and they don't really understand it, but keeping it very basic?
Yeah, I think it's again, I'm not a tax accountant, but in the most simple terms, there are certain expenses that you have in order to run your business that now is a deduction of expense towards your business. So you use your phone. You might have a home office. You might be able to allocate a portion of your home office. You might be using a car to go visit your clients. You're buying office supplies. There's just a lot of things that are just ordinary that you would normally be doing that are now actually part of your business. It's not like an open invitation to just deduct all of your expenses. You can't do that. But you can, but then your tax accountant's going to get your details, and they're not going to allow you to do that. So, and even things like, I've got an S corp, and as part of my S corp, I pay myself a salary, and then I've got a SEP IRA, and so my corporation actually makes a contribution, which is expense to the corporation for my benefit plan. So now that's something that would have to be offered to every employee. So if I had a small company and there was like my wife and myself, that would make sense. But you have to understand, if you had 10 employees, you'd have to be doing the same thing in order for it to be deductible. But again, speak to the tax accountant on that one.
Okay. David, anything to add, or is that cover it?
I think Mark did a great job there. I think, this is where having a good tax accountant can really help you out, to help you identify what are these expenses that I can now treat as business expenses that are going to reduce my tax liability, and work with them, talk to them about your business. They will go through and understand, what are the things that you're doing, what are potential opportunities that might be deductions that you might not look about. But I think one of the big advantages of being a business owner is those opportunities to find those deductions are vastly increased as a business owner, as opposed to being a W-2 employee.
Absolutely.
So I think what I'm hearing is there are stuff that you can deduct. You have a home office, you're deducting a portion of that. You have cell phones, potentially have cars. So there's different things where you're not going into this thinking, okay, it's all expense coming out. There are some abilities to sort of offset that income. And then you mentioned sort of the IRA piece. That's a big thing clients say to us, like, here's all these benefits I'm getting working for a corporation. I'm going to lose all of that. There are still ways to invest, and whether it's in you and your family or any other family members that may be involved at some aspects of that. And so, Dave, can you hit on that? I know Mark hit on it a little bit with the IRA standpoint. Can you add a little color to that? And I know you've set that up for our family.
Yeah, I mean, you can set up a 401k, you can still have IRAs, you can do SEPs. There's a lot of different business retirement accounts that are out there that you can take advantage of as a business owner. There are opportunities, as Mark said, for the business to contribute to that as well, just like that happens in corporate America. So you're not giving that up. There are still ways to go about it. There are different strategies. Again, that's where talking to a tax professional can help you understand, what is the best plan? How do I maximize this? How do I, I know for us, for example, we're able to contribute as ourselves. Andrew and I were able to contribute a portion of it as the business as well, and so it's all for us. We're actually able to contribute more to our retirement on a tax kind of preferred basis than we could have in corporate America as business owners. So there's lots of opportunity there, and that tax advisor can give you the best advice on what's the best strategy to help maximize your own specific situation.
What else?
What
What
else?
am I missing here?
I know. Are we missing anything that you think
Oh,
is really
there's
important?
always more, right? There's always
more.
more dotting I's and crossing the T's. And I think that's just the same thing where a good trusted advisor is important. And it's not going to just be one advisor. You're going to have different advisors, whether it's for something for legal, something for accounting, or something for tax.
Yeah, I would say maybe the biggest takeaway here is every single business owner out there is doing these things, right? If you've never done it before, the thought of, oh my gosh, I've got to do my own books, it sounds scary. It's really a lot easier than you think. Getting it set up, getting it managed on a daily basis. You can do it yourself. You can hire people to help you with it. Every single business does it. There's a lot of advantages to being a business owner than being a W-2 employee. So don't let it scare you off. Look at it as an opportunity, because I think that's really what it is.
Yep.
No,
that's
absolutely.
great.
I certainly wish I did it sooner in my career.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. And I think, knowing that you have people out there that would have kept that old shoebox of receipts and then passed them over to somebody like Mark to have to, look through them and help them from a bookkeeping. There are ways to make this a little bit easier and not as overwhelming. And I think to your point, Dave, there's so many, everyone's doing this. They're hiring the accountants, the lawyers, potentially a bookkeeper or software to do it. There's lots of ways to do it. And I think that's one thing with franchises, that you can leverage all the other franchisees to ask them, what did you do? How did you set this up? That's the beauty. Is you're not going into business on your own. You have not only the leadership team of the franchisor, but you also have all the other franchisees to ask their opinion on who'd you use on this. Do you have anyone to recommend? Can you help me here? I think there's a lot of advantages to that. So thank you both for coming on today and filling us in. I think this is going to be really helpful for our clients as they're going through. This is one aspect that can get a little bit overwhelming and maybe, an area not as comfortable for them. And so thanks so much for coming on. And for those of you listening, if you're considering franchising as a potential path to business ownership, remember, there's no one size fits all to franchises that suits everyone. Even so, there's certainly a franchise out there that's perfect for you. To explore your options and find your perfect match, please visit us at theperfectfranchise.com. By clicking on Let's Talk, you can schedule time to speak with a consultant on the Perfect Franchise team. We look forward to connecting with you again on the next episode. Until then, take care.